Let's talk about regrets, ladies and gentlemen, because we all have them, okay? I don't care what your motto is. I don't care what your tattoo says. We all have had a regret once or twice in our lives. And sure as anything, many people do have regrets about moving to Denver, Colorado. Not everybody, obviously, and mostly what we focus on this channel is the positive, right? I love Denver. Many people love living here, but not everybody. So if people regret their move, what do they regret? And that's what we're going to talk about today. If you don't know, my name is Sam. I am a real estate professional in the Denver Metro. I run a real estate team. It's our goal to be your go-to resource for anything, buying or selling, or just chatting about real estate in the Denver area. If we can do anything for you, please do reach out. So what I did was scour the web to try to figure out what the most common regrets about moving to Denver. I looked at forums. Yes, those still exist. I looked at Reddit. I looked at blogs, many blogs. I actually talked to people and asked them if there's anything they regret about moving to Denver. And I've compiled those most common answers in a list, and I'm going to go through the list in this video, talk about what people are regretting, and then give my take on why that's a regret and the validity of said regret. And what authority do I have to determine the validity of anything? None whatsoever, but that has never stopped me in the past. So this is in no particular order. It's just the top 7 regrets that I saw keep coming up. And the first one I want to talk about is cost of living. What many people said was the cost of living here is more expensive than they expected, and or more expensive than wherever they moved from, particularly with housing when people are trying to rent or buy a home. And this is completely understandable. If you look at a cost of living calculator, Denver's cost of living is 9% higher than the national average. So significant, if not astronomical. But if you break it down by sector, by category, housing in Denver is 28% higher than the national average. So higher by quite a wide margin. Many people are shocked when they move here. Rents are higher, and home prices are definitely higher. Median rent in Denver is somewhere around $1,900 a month, depending on what metric you're looking at. And the median home price across all home types is still right around $625,000. If you're coming from Southern California, these will not scare you. In fact, they'll probably seem like a deal. But if you're coming from St. Paul, Minnesota, shout out to the north, it's gonna seem really high. There are some cost of living around housing expenses that are actually much lower than the national average in Denver, and we will get to those later on. Second regret people have is the altitude, or specifically how much the altitude affects them. Denver is known as the Mile High City, which is true if slightly manipulated to get the official altitude of the city right at 5,280 feet, 5,281 mile. So I don't think anyone's particularly surprised that it's a city that's at a higher altitude than most places in the US, most cities for sure. But I do think people are surprised with how much the altitude affects them. So first of all, yes, we here in Denver are at 5,280, 1 mile above sea level, basically. Important to note, Denver is next to the mountains. It's not in the mountains. So if you've never been here, this may be a misconception, but mountain towns are going to be at much higher altitude, starting at 7,000 feet all the way up to 9,000 for Breckenridge, 10,000 and change for Leadville. Altitude up there is a whole different ballgame, but altitude at a mile high is nothing to sneeze at either. And the regrets, the complaints is people are saying, I didn't realize how much the altitude would affect me with shortness of breath, dehydration, problems sleeping, those sorts of things, headaches for some folks. And I'm seeing / hearing a lot of people say that these altitude-related ailments are continuing longer than they expected. Basically, they thought they would go away in a week or 2 or 3, and they have continued messing with them throughout their stay here in Denver. I don't know. I moved to Denver when I was much younger. I was a much younger man in my early 20s. The altitude never affected me that much. I felt it right away, and then it went away really quickly. I do think sometimes it's a bit overblown, but I also think that it affects certain people differently. Over time, weeks and months, I do believe the body adjusts for most people, but it's something to consider if you're thinking about moving to Denver, or especially if you're thinking about taking a vacation to Denver. You may have to work around this. Next one, lawn care effort was a surprise and a bit of a regret, especially how much you need to water your lawn to keep your lawn green here. This one, definitely. Where I grew up, your lawn was just a lawn, and you could make it as nice or as not nice as you wanted, depending on, things like fertilizer and weed control and things like that. But nobody outside of some suburban areas and some really bougie neighborhoods, nobody really had sprinklers in their lawn. Your lawn was just your lawn. And when it was warm, the lawn grew, and then when it was cold, it went dormant. So moving here was completely different, because if you want any sort of lawn at all, you need to water it regularly. Denver, semi-arid desert. Keyword there, desert. People don't realize it is very, very dry here. It's not as lush as a lot of places in the Northeast, Northwest, Midwest, really a lot of different areas of the country. It's of course beautiful in its own way, but it's very, very dry. So if you're expecting to have a lawn and not water it, not gonna work. I've seen a lot of homes, especially renovations, that put in sod to make that front yard and backyard look amazing, but either didn't install sprinklers or didn't turn them on, and that sod is gonna dry up and die quickly within a month or two in hot season, or even less. So I do think this is something that surprises a lot of people. A lot of people don't expect. Lawn care, watering is important, is necessary. Don't love dumping a bunch of water on your lawn. I don't either. Many people are opting for xeriscaping now with the rocks and the artificial turf. Still not nearly as popular as having a normal lawn, but it is an option. Next regret, lack of public transportation and or how bad the traffic is. I've talked about traffic a lot on the channel. It's got significantly worse over the last 10, 20 years, as it has in many areas of the country and the world. However, traffic now in Denver isn't at extreme bad levels, it is just at bad levels. Now, there's traffic most of the day, most of the days, depending on the route you're taking. I-25 is a challenge on any work day, at most any time. I-70, of course, talking about ski traffic and mountain traffic, both summer and winter, it sucks. I believe the town has outgrown the traffic infrastructure. They're working on expanding it, but it's a work in progress. And then public transportation. For some reason, a lot of people moved here expecting better public transportation. We have it. I always tell people, it's okay. We have a bus system that works. It's a bus system. It's not as widely used for day-to-day commuters as it is in some cities. If you want to make it work for you, you can. It's not super convenient, and quite honestly, I don't really know anybody who does. We do have a light rail too, which where it goes very well. It just doesn't go that many different places. The light rail from downtown, from Union Station to the airport, back and forth, is great. It works awesome. It's a nice little ride. Wonderful. And then there's a nice little light rail route up and down I-25, north-south, to get, again, connecting downtown to northern suburbs and southern suburbs. It works pretty darn well if you're by a light rail station. It also goes west to Arvada. There's a bunch of different lines. Where it goes pretty well. It's not a robust system that serves the city and the metro area as a whole. Denver is still very much a car-based community. Certain factions are trying to change that, especially downtown. I mentioned that in a previous video with all the bike lanes going in. I don't know if we'll ever get to big-time adoption of public transportation. We are very spread out here. Public transport in the Denver metro, average to below average. Next one, air quality. Poor air quality is a surprise and regret to a number of people who've moved to Denver. And this one's confusing because Denver seems like a very clean city, which in many ways it is. It is one of the fittest, healthiest cities in America based on the people and their habits and activities. It's not a huge city for pollution in terms of pollution generated, but there's a few special factors that actually make Denver's air quality at times among the worst in the nation. Not always, but at times, because air quality is a moving target depending on local factors at any given time. Oftentimes the air quality in Denver is just fine, at least based on air quality rankings, but some of the time it can get very bad to the point that the city will put out alerts and put it on those digital billboards on the highway that, hey, the air quality is going to be bad, stay inside, don't exercise outside. And there's a few reasons for this. Number one is, like a lot of western areas, especially dry areas, we've had problems with wildfires over the last few decades. Some wildfires in the western part of Colorado, the mountainous regions, we've had a significant number of very destructive wildfires. That smoke, of course, plays into our air quality in the Denver metro. But we also get smoke from farther away places. California wildfires in Canada. I remember vividly one afternoon sitting on my back patio having a little happy hour, and not only was the air hazy, but little pieces of ash were coming down and raining down on the table and actually into our drinks. It wasn't anything major, but it was noticeable, and this was coming from a wildfire in Canada. So these fires, when they're going on, affect our air quality depending on the direction of the wind and other things that I don't understand. But Denver has another unique phenomenon in the meteorological system around it that's called the inversion effect. So this is where cold air on the ground gets trapped underneath warm air above it. And this isn't always present, but it is fairly common in Denver. And this is an inversion because warm air is supposed to be lower and cold air is supposed to be higher, usually. This inversion effect, when it's in play, keeps pollution trapped, doesn't let it expand upwards like it usually would. And this traps smoke from wildfires too. So a bit of a phenomenon that can actually take whatever pollution is there and make it worse. Not always a problem. How many days a year are there where I'm talking about those alerts and where you should stay inside? It's hazy. If you run outside, your throat's going to be scratchy, your eyes will be burning, maybe a handful. Other than that, it's usually fine. It, of course, depends on how many fires are going on, that sort of thing. It hasn't been a big deterrent for me, somebody who likes to exercise outside, but it is a big enough a deal that there's a lot been written and said about it. All right, next regret, and this one is the most bizarre. This one kept coming up, and I couldn't believe it. I miss rain. It rained more where I came from, and it doesn't rain very much in Denver, and I miss that. Yes, Denver is very sunny. We are self-proclaimed as the Sunshine State. Slogan is 300 days of sunshine a year. It's not that many, but it's still a lot. It doesn't rain very much, and when it does, it's usually pretty quick. We don't get a lot of full rainy days. And this, for some reason, bothers some people, which is insane to me because you're nostalgic for a thing that ruins events. Okay, I want to do anything outside it's raining. Most of the time it's going to be ruined. If it's not raining, I can do that thing. To me, I think it's great. But that's just one person's opinion. If you love the rain and love cold, gray, drizzly days, you may not like it here. You've been warned. And the last one, and I'm only including this because it kept coming up, but this one shocks me as well. Property taxes. I regret moving to Colorado because my property taxes are too high. I kept seeing this again and again. I don't know if it's bots posting this. I don't know if it's people misunderstanding what their property taxes are or how they're supposed to work. Colorado is tied for the third lowest property tax rate in the nation. It's actually one of the benefits about living here. Higher home prices, yes, but lower property taxes, at least based on the tax rate. And actually, if we're talking about Denver has one of the lowest mill levies, which is the way local municipal taxes are calculated in the metro. So I don't know what's going on here other than property taxes have gone up significantly in the past few years, but still tied for third lowest in the nation, but higher than they were. A couple things happened there. Home prices shot up and Denver home values were assessed right around mid-2022, which was the peak, the pinnacle of home values here and in many places nationally. The other thing that happened was the repeal of what's called the Gallagher Amendment, which had been part of the state constitution since the 1980s. That was something that helped keep property taxes artificially low for residential properties. It shifted more of the burden to commercial properties. That was repealed, so that was also partially responsible for the rise in taxes. Still, again, tied for third lowest in the nation. That is all. If you want to take a deeper dive into Denver traffic, how bad it is and how it compares to other cities in the nation and the world, I did a video on that. I will link to that here. As always, if there's anything we can do for you, please reach out to me. There's a number of ways to get in touch in the description of this video. Otherwise, I love you. We'll talk soon.